Hello, hello, hello. It's Knits for Sanity and welcome to my channel. If this is your first time here, thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you stick around for a little bit and check it out. And if you're a returning visitor, I'm so glad you came back. This is a WIP Chat. WIP stands for work in progress. So grab whatever project, craft, or hobby it is that you are working on and let me chat with you for a while. So this is my sooner rather than later WIP Chat to give you part 2 of the great wrestling weekend that occurred 2 weekends ago. So if you would like the first half of this epic story, I mean, it's not really that epic. However, the last WIP Chat was not half bad. And I know because I had to listen to it again so that I knew exactly where to pick up here. But then I kind of did, never mind. I'll just keep talking. Just ignore all of that. But yes, if you're interested in the first half of the story, go back and check out the WIP Chat directly before this one. I think it's WIP Chat number 33. But now I'm not even 100% sure. But I think it's 33 and this is 34. You will know. Just look at my thumbnail that I make for this video. All right, so yes, sit back, relax, enjoy whatever it is you're doing, or maybe have this make it a little bit more bearable for you to get through cleaning the toilet. Whatever it is, listen along. All right, so first and foremost, what am I working on today? I'm actually, I've been doing these little bitty paint gem kits lately, and this is their holiday one, their Christmas one, and I have done several of these little paintings the last few days, and that's kind of because I'm in between projects and stuff right now, and I'm working on some other projects for the channel, and so these have been so much fun. They are easy to do, they're quick, and they're cute. For being teeny tiny little designs, they are rendered very, very well. So I will link to Paint Gem and the notes below. And please, do look at those notes. That tells you where you can find most of the awesome products that you see me use. It also gives you tips and tricks on how you can help support my channel. And generally, those rules are the same for all other small YouTube channels as well. Biggest thing, guys, is like, subscribe, and share, okay? If you're wondering how you can be a supporter without necessarily being a financial supporter, because those of us with small channels, we're not making any money, being a supporter really is just that simple. Like, subscribe, and share. That's really about it. All right, so I kind of left it off after going through all of our tragedies from last weekend. So just a very, very, very brief recap. Middle daughter and I, middle daughter, who is a wrestling fanatic, has her sights set on one day becoming a wrestling coach. We had an epic wrestling weekend 2 weekends ago, or the very first weekend of March. And it involved attending both our state high school wrestling individual finals as well as the Big Ten championship. And I kind of left it off with all of the rather unexpected trials that we encountered, including nearly starving to death and being stranded. I mean, not really, but in some ways not far off. To now basically we are at the Big Ten championship and things are looking up. And indeed, things were looking up. After everything that I talked about in that last episode, we made it through all of that. Windshield wipers were fixed. Things were definitely looking up, and things did continue to go much, much better after that. So I was very, very thankful and relieved because I had reached a point where I really couldn't handle much more happening. And in fact, after we did get the windshield wipers fixed and we made it back to the Chrysler Arena, and we got there early. I didn't really want to go anywhere else. We'd now had food. My daughter had her emergency book. And the windshield wipers were fixed. I kind of just wanted to get back to the arena and just sit in the parking lot for 45 minutes or however long it was. She could read her book. I could read. I could rest my eyes. But we got back there and I asked Veda if I could borrow Benjamin. All right, so who's Benjamin? A Wolverine. In case you're not aware, University of Michigan, their school mascot is a Wolverine. And the day before, My daughter had a little bit of money from me that I said that I would spend on her. And then she also had gotten a gift card from the wrestlers for her birthday. And she found 2 items that she really wanted to use that money on. One was another sweatshirt. And I mean, it was a really nice pale yellow Michigan sweatshirt. It's very, very pretty. And then the other is she found a very cute stuffed Wolverine that she decided she wanted. So she had spent her money on those 2 items. And after getting back to the arena, I just really wanted to hug something soft. So I asked her if I could borrow Benjamin for a minute. And so I hugged Benjamin. And it was really nice. In fact, it was so nice. And she just named him Benjamin, by the way. The Wolverine doesn't actually have a name. She just named him that. But it was so nice that I said to Veda, I might need one of these. And so when we went back inside, and after we decided that we really couldn't get gifts for anyone else, we'd gotten a Michigan wrestling t-shirt for my son because he wrestles. But then we could have found something for Abby, daughter number 3, and for my husband. Okay. Things that they would have used, but it's my oldest daughter. We couldn't find anything that she would have had any appreciation for. So we decided that it would be better to just not get the rest of them anything at all, knowing that they'd be totally fine with that and completely understand. Far better than coming home with something for everyone else except Sylvia. So kind of after we decided that and everything, I thought, all right, I'm going to buy myself a Benjamin. So I bought myself a stuffed Wolverine and I named him Franklin. So now we have Benjamin and Franklin. Ha, ha, ha. I thought it was kind of cute. And of course, once Franklin comes home, Franklin is kind of now everyone's Wolverine to an extent. He sits on mom and dad's bed and the kids come in and they talk with Franklin and they hug Franklin. And so, yeah, so I got my own stuffed Wolverine last weekend. But it was interesting because while we were standing outside waiting to get in, looking around, it kind of really hit me. I said to Veda, honey, I'm thinking that this is not a very popular mother-daughter activity. She kind of looks at me. I'm like, yeah, I don't think this is a very normal thing for mothers and daughters to do together. And yet here we both are. And Veda says, I love this child. She says to me, yeah, Mom, I kind of always knew that. I just was pretending that it was normal. She was pretending it was normal. I'm like, well, I don't think we need to pretend. I mean, if this is what we enjoy doing, does it really matter? And she's like, well, no, but I didn't want you to think that we were really weird, Mom. Oh, thanks, dear. As if I hadn't put it together by now. Oh, come on. But it was interesting. Just, I have learned to love this sport so much. And it's something that I've always done with Veda. Veda started wrestling when she was 4 in preschool. And when she was in kindergarten, she started doing tournaments. And it's always been Veda and me. It's always been the 2 of us going to these things. It's always been the 2 of us going to state tournaments. It's always been a mother-daughter activity for us. And so to look around and realize, yeah, this whole mother-daughter activity thing normally is not wrestling. Was kind of funny just to see it on such a grand scope like that. And indeed, when we were even in the arena, if you would look around, and for a lot of the women that were there, they were either talking to each other and not watching the mats, or they were on their phones scrolling. The woman who was sitting in front of us for at least one session, she was shopping and she's trying to show her husband these different things that she was finding. Well, shopping at a wrestling tournament. I just thought, woman, you're crazy. First, your husband's never going to pay attention. You could buy whatever the heck you wanted right now. He wouldn't even know. But also, geez Louise, there's some really good wrestling happening. Why aren't you watching that? But I guess apparently it really is not, I guess it's not normally something that women find of great interest, even though I really believe that, ladies, if you would just spend a little while and pay attention, you would find it absolutely fascinating. It's a great sport. I swear, I'm not making it up. It is a really good sport. But I think we did gather some amusement from the guys that were sitting by us. So for most of the sessions, it was actually quite empty. And I had mentioned that in the episode prior to this one, that I think the storm, and it was a bad storm that we had the night before, did frighten off a lot of people. And the tickets weren't that expensive that it was very, very easy to say, I'm taking off my sweatshirt a minute. But because the ticket prices were not so outrageous, it was very easy, I think, for a lot of people to say, weather was really crappy. It's horrible outside. We're not going to go. We're not driving there. And so I think that's a lot of what happened. So like the first session, which was Saturday morning, was very empty. I say very, I don't know, maybe 50 to 60% attendance, which when you looked online, tickets were almost completely sold. The Saturday night session was a lot more full. The Sunday morning session was probably about as full as the Saturday night session. And then, of course, the Sunday late afternoon session with the finals was the most full. That was a pretty busy session. But prior to that, there was enough space that Veda and I were actually sitting. She was behind me and I was in front of her. And the reason why we sat like that is I would have had her in front of me. But the reason why we sat like that is because when we walked up there were already two guys sitting next to what ended up being my seat, versus in the row behind me, nobody was in that row. And so Veda would much rather not sit next to strangers, especially, strange men. So I took the seat in front of her. Well, these guys who were sitting next to us, it was pretty obvious that they were Penn State fans. So, I asked them, so did you come here from Pennsylvania? And they're like, yeah, we did. And they were talking about how crazy the weather was. And I said, yeah, it was pretty insane. And explained, we're not from the area either. And last night, while we didn't come from our home, we did drive in from Detroit, and it was a nightmare. And, just basic little chit chat like that. But over the course of these 4 sessions, I made some observations about these guys. And I'm kind of thinking that these gentlemen, I feel like they slept in their car. I feel like their wives said to them, okay, you may go. That's fine. You may drive over to Michigan. You can go to this Big Ten championship. That's fine. But you're only spending $100 each. And so they probably scratched their heads and they went, okay, so how are we going to do this on such a tight budget? Well, we can buy, the cheaper seats, and then we'll drive over there together, and then we won't get a hotel. We'll just sleep in the car somewhere and hopefully not freeze to death. Okay, and this is why I say this. So while we were there, all 4 sessions, these guys were dressed in the same outfits. Their clothing never changed. And apart from one soda or pop, if you're in the Midwest, one soda purchased for the final session, they never bought anything. They did not eat or drink the entire time they were there. It was unreal. And I mean, it's dry in there. I don't know how you could go without drinking anything. And you can't, of course, bring any kind of a beverage in with you. So that's what I'm thinking, is they must have come on like this super tight budget. And the other thing that makes me wonder about like where they may have been staying was by the final session, and I had to sit like right next to them. They didn't stink, but the guy next to me, he was a little heavy with the aftershave, which, having taught in middle and high schools and remembering like what my college friends were like, when you go a little heavy with the aftershave, this means we have not showered in a few days. So, I mean, I don't know. They were nice guys. Like, I didn't have a problem with them at all. But that's my guess, is they came on a super, super duper tight budget with some pretty strict instructions about how they could and could not spend their money. Don't know. Just saying. Just saying. Just a little thought here about things. But they were obvious Penn State fans. However, I think they were rather amused and surprised that Veda and I are there and how much knowledge we had. I think that really threw them. And then the fact that we were there all 4 sessions, I think they kind of were thinking that we would maybe not be coming back because we had to leave that first session slightly early. And I talk about that in the last episode. So I think they were maybe thinking, oh yeah, these women, they aren't coming back, And then we were there for every single session. We typically beat them back, And Veda and I, we were talking, and it was obvious we knew exactly what we were talking about. We were very knowledgeable, and we would talk about this one guy, he'd wrestle, and then we'd talk about this other guy and make comments about, wow, that was a really impressive move for him, or yeah, typical, all this kind of stuff. Well, this came mostly into play, or I really picked up on it. My daughter's favorite college wrestler is a young guy called Will Luan. He's 157 is his weight class for U of M. And just briefly, I think he's a really nice guy. I think he's very private. I think he's very introverted. And I'm kind of basing this off from his wrestling style as well as just what I've observed from him. I just think he's a really private, nice kid is kind of what I'm guessing. And Veda just thinks he's like the greatest. I'm not 100% sure why, but she does. She really likes him. She really admires him. She likes his wrestling style, but also critiques it quite heavily. I don't know. It's very interesting. So he is wrestling, and we are talking. Oh, I forgot a T there. I'll have to go back. Okay. But we're talking about him wrestling, and he is a very, very defensive wrestler. So it is not uncommon. In fact, you can almost predict his bouts perfectly every single time. It will be first period, which is 3 minutes long, 0 points. Second period is 2 minutes long. One guy starts on bottom. He will escape. 1 point. And that will be the only point in the second period. Third period, other guy starts on bottom. He will escape. 1 point. And that will be the only point for that period. So now you're tied. 1-1. It's the end of the third period. A normal bout is only 3 periods long. So now we have to go into sudden death overtime, which is kind of like another period added. And in this period, whoever gets the first takedown wins the match. However, even here, not uncommon, 0-0, no new points gained. So then you go into these 30-second matches where one guy starts on bottom the first time, and then the second time the other guy starts on bottom. And sometimes it will come down to just who holds control of their opponent for the longest to determine who wins the bout, which this can now become a full 10 minutes of wrestling, all right? Which you have no idea how long this is. And in fact, one of the bouts we watched, I think it was his very, very first bout of was it his first bout of I think it was. It was that full 10 minutes, and his opponent became so exhausted that those last few seconds, they just stood on the mat and looked at each other, and his opponent literally was like waving it off, like, yeah, done. Like, I am done. And that's how Will Luan wrestles. He is very defensive. He rarely goes on the offense unless he absolutely has to, which would be like in your sudden death overtime. And so Veda and I are talking about Will, and we're talking about his wrestling style and what we'd really like to see from him. And, I mean, it must have been a lot of extensive talking about his wrestling, because I noticed that by one of the sessions, must have been session 3, so Sunday morning, I think, I noticed that Will Luan goes up, and I hear the guys next to us, and they start to talk about Will Luan. Prior to this, they didn't really know much about him at all. But now, all of a sudden, I hear them talking about Will Luan. And I'm thinking, oh, that's really interesting. They've been listening to Veda and me. Like, so it was really funny. And then even when it came down to the final, where Will Luan was wrestling for third, in the first place match, or in the actual finals, there was a Penn State wrestler. And these guys, yes, they were watching the Penn State wrestler, who won, by the way, but they would also keep commenting on what they were seeing on Will's mat. And I found it very, very funny and very interesting that they must have been paying such close attention to what Veda and I were saying about him that they now had a vested interest in Will Luan. So it was really interesting and kind of, I don't know, in a way kind of cool knowing that, like this 13-year-old girl helped shape these grown men to develop an opinion, and actually kind of a respect and appreciation for this wrestler that previously they hadn't ever really paid attention to. So yes, so Veda's favorite wrestler did come in third, which she was super duper geeked about, because when she had studied the brackets Friday night, 3837, after studying the brackets and everything, she had made some predictions, and she had predicted that Will would come in third. I did not remain as convinced that he would be third. Sorry, Will. I mean, not that he's ever going to hear any of this, but still, sorry, Will. I was thinking more like 5th place is kind of what I was thinking. It wasn't until I think it was, now it's been a week and a half since I've been. So, I mean, my mind is now cloudy because my life is that busy. But it wasn't until he had a rematch with the Michigan State wrestler, which when they had wrestled Michigan State at duels earlier in the season, Will lost to the Michigan State wrestler in overtime. And it wasn't until that rematch, and I saw, he's going to go up against the same guy from State again, that I realized Veda could be right, because that was the bout that was going to put him into the third place, wrestling for third. And why do I say that? Like, he lost to this guy, so you'd think that the odds would be in the favor of the Michigan State wrestler. Except Will is the kind of wrestler that he learns. I think he's also a very intelligent kid too, but he learns. So he knew what went wrong with that last bout, and he was not going to let it happen again. And he didn't. He won, and it was a good bout. He wrestled very well. He actually was a little bit aggressive, which he knew, this is what I have to do. Typically, if Will can manage to get a takedown in the first period, odds are very good, definitely in his favor, that he will end up winning the match. If he can get a takedown in that very first period. So that's just one thing that, we've noticed about him. But it wasn't till that bout where he had this rematch with the Michigan State wrestler that I started thinking too, I think Veda's right. You know, when I saw that bout coming up, I thought, you know, yeah, she might be right. He might get third. And so he did. She was tickled pink. Her only disappointment, of course, if you know Veda, was that she couldn't get a picture with Will and his third place medal, which Veda loves pictures. I love pictures. There's something about taking pictures that it's very hard to explain. It's capturing a moment, and maybe even more so for autistics, but it's capturing a moment and almost like encapsulating it. And so it gives you something to look at and be like, yeah, I was there. This is a moment captured of my life, and a moment shared. So, you know, those pictures with people, Veda always wants her picture with other people. And it's, you know, and some of it, I don't even know, like she has a really hard time recognizing faces too. So I don't know if some of it is also then looking at these pictures to help her remember faces. But it's about encapsulating these shared moments or these moments in her life and her experiences. I'm not sure how to explain it. And it's something that I need to think about and work on and try and better figure out how to explain that for her. But of course, she couldn't get a picture with Will and his third place medal, which, I mean, she knew, but still a disappointment. But it was coming off from the fact that she couldn't get a picture of Ian, the high school wrestler from the day before, and his third place medal, which that's a picture that she should have been able to get. She wanted to be able to get, and she wasn't there because we were at the Big Ten instead. And so that was hard for her. And I knew that would be hard for her. And Ian knew that would be hard for her. But, I mean, she's okay. But it was just that back to back, like, oh, Ian got his third place medal Saturday night and Will got his third place medal Sunday night. And I don't have pictures of any of this. So that was a prediction that Veda had gotten right. She had a couple of other predictions that really, really surprised me. And I thought, no, I don't know about that. And one of them was Cam Amin, who is 165 weight class for Michigan. She had predicted that he would take fourth. And I kind of really felt like he'd be like second. I overestimated. She got it on the head. He wrestled until he made it into the third place match, and then he actually took a medical forfeit, and which I think is good, just because he has the NCAAs this week. But yeah, because he took a medical forfeit, then he gave up third and just claimed fourth. So she had that one right. Mason Paris, who was seeded first and is ranked number 1 in the country, she said, but super tight. He's our heavyweight, and super tight race among the heavyweights nationwide, but especially in the Big Ten. The top 4 seeds for the heavyweight class, all very close in wrestling. I mean, it truly was almost anyone's game. And she said Mason Paris will win. He'll get championship, but it's going to be tight. Like, it's going to be really, really close. And she was right. Mason Paris won it in overtime. It was pretty intense. And there was even some, like, bickering about some of the ref calls. And I mean, it was tight. And I will say, it was probably one of the most exciting matches. And to end the Big Ten final with a match like that, oh, you couldn't hope for anything more. I mean, that is like perfection. That is how you want a major event like this to end, is with a bout like that one. It was that good. But she called it completely right. So those were the 3 predictions she had that she nailed. And like, I didn't think that anything that she was saying was like wrong, but I had my doubts, we'll see, but she had them right. Now she did have a couple wrong. Matt Finesilver, she predicted that he would come in, what did she say, like 5th or 6th, and he took 3rd, right? I think he was 3rd. Or was he 4th? I think he was 3rd. Yeah, he was 3rd because, again, his opponent took a medical forfeit. So he was 3rd. And so he did better than she thought. And that may have been everyone she predicted. She may have predicted Jack Medley. He's the 125 pounder, the smallest weight class. And she may have predicted 6th for him, and he came in 8th, or maybe 7th and came in 8th. I can't remember for sure because now it's been, like I said, a week and a half, and it's easier for me to remember the stuff she got right versus the stuff she got wrong. But most of what she predicted was accurate. It was right. So I was pretty impressed. I thought that's pretty good. That's knowing the wrestlers involved. That's knowing the techniques and the skills as well as the deficiencies of the wrestlers that you are rooting for. That's being able to read brackets and figure out, if so-and-so advances here, then that means that they'd be up against so-and-so. But if they fall back here, then, it's reading the brackets and kind of predicting how they're going to flow and who they're going to see. So it was kind of fun, and it was like, okay, yeah, she gets this, like she gets this sport, and she is as passionate about it as what people think. I mean, she really is. What am I looking for? Letter O, 826. Okay. Got it now. I'm good now. Yeah. So this weekend, starting Thursday, is the NCAA Wrestling Championship Division 1. Division 2 and 3 happened last weekend. I think both were last weekend. And now it's Division 1, which is like the creme de la creme of college wrestling. And of course, we're not going. It's in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and like so gosh darn expensive. Although Veda's convinced that, we are going to the NCAA final at some point, Mom. It's going to happen. And she also was convinced that she's going to the 2028 Olympics because they'll be in LA, and that's the year that she graduates from high school. NCAA, maybe. Maybe there's a possibility we can make that one happen. The Olympics, Mom and Dad need completely different jobs because, yeah, we don't make money that would be required to go to an event like that. But you never know, right? You never know. She may as well keep living in hope. But that takes place Thursday, Friday, and Saturday later this week. And Veda is trying her darndest to come up with every reason why it makes more sense for her to watch the NCAA final on TV, because we can stream it, although it's kind of choppy streaming around here, but we can stream it. We did it last year. Why she should do that instead of go to school. And yeah, so she is in the process of working her way into trying to convince me of all of the merits to watching the NCAA wrestling versus going to school. Guys, she's going to school. But having said that, that does lead me up to my community question. So if you are new to my channel and you happen to still be listening, despite all of my wrestling talk, if you happen to still be listening, with most WIP Chats, I like to ask a community question. And it's just a way to try and get to know people within the community better and a way to help us all connect with one another. So I ask the question, and I love reading your answers in the comments below. And then I always encourage you to go through and read what other people wrote too. Maybe you can make a new friend. So my question is, Can you remember a time when your parents let you skip school, or skip may not be quite the right word, but miss school for something that was not illness, it was not family emergency related, like a death in the family or anything like that, but for an event that was something so special or so unique that your parents thought it would be better for you to take part in that than go to school? I hope that makes sense. So, for example, when I was I don't like that drill. We're going to replace that one. When I was in the 6th grade, we had a major eclipse happen by us. And my mom learned that we were not going to do anything at school to watch the eclipse. And this kind of bothered her. It's like, this is a great education opportunity. Why are you not doing anything to have these kids go out and watch the eclipse? So, and she was homeschooling my sisters at this point, but I was in school. So she actually came and she picked me up from school early that day so that I could go home and watch the eclipse. And of course, we made one of those box things where you put in a little pinprick, and so you can watch the eclipse safely without staring at the sun. So that's one time that was the case for me, was that particular incident. So did you have something kind of like that as a kid growing up? There was a time where your parents said, no, I think this activity is going to be more beneficial and more meaningful for you in the long run than going to school. My dad still will mention the time that his father had him skip school so that my dad could watch all the big construction trucks at one of my grandpa's construction sites. My dad remembers that. There's no way he'd remember what they would have done in school that day, but he remembers that. He remembers his dad taking him to his construction site to watch all the big trucks. So I'm curious, do you have a similar shared experience like that? I'd love to hear about it. For Veda, she has been able to miss school. Like, she had to miss school last week, Friday, for our big wrestling weekend. Now, because she is technically part of the high school team, being their manager, she was allowed to go because it was a school type function. So kind of similar, kind of different. Truth be told, I am considering, we'll see how Will Luan does Thursday, but I'm considering maybe picking her up from school early on Friday so she can watch all of Friday's wrestling. But, oh wait, no. I can't. I won't be here. Oh, no. Oh, bummer. Well, there goes my great idea. I won't even be here, guys. I totally forgot. I said I'd go down and visit my parents. They live just over an hour away from me, and I haven't seen them in a long time. So I was going to go down and visit my parents on Friday. Oh. Well, now I'm bummed because I was all excited thinking I was maybe going to do something kind of cool and totally a surprise for her, completely unexpected. Oh, well, never mind. Oh, that's kind of a bummer now. So never mind. I won't be getting her Friday. She will just have to watch Saturday, and she can watch in the evening, Thursday and Friday, whatever may be going on then. So yeah, never mind. Oops. In other news, a week ago, my oldest Sylvia, who I don't spend a lot of time talking about just because she is very private and she does not like me sharing a lot of stuff, but she had her high school scheduling meeting and she signed up for high school classes a week ago, which is just shocking to me. Guys, how does it go this fast? Seriously, how does time move this fast? I don't feel like I have aged that many years. Like, I mean, parts of my body feel like I have aged 14 years, almost 15 years. But other parts of me really, truly don't. Like, in my head, I don't feel like it's been that long. But clearly, it's been that long. It's crazy. So we had that scheduling meeting last week, Thursday, and she was such a stinker, and not in a bad way. So she has struggled with making friendships her entire life, and now she has this one really, really good friend. They seem to have a great relationship. She's a nice girl. Well, this other girl and her mom showed up, and next thing I know, my daughters ditched me. Like, I sat alone through the meeting, and then there was the scavenger hunt that the kids could go on. And my daughter initially said she had no interest in doing that, but next thing I know, she's running off with this friend of hers to do the scavenger hunt, which, I don't know, it was cool to see. It was just really cool to see that she had a friend that was such a good friend that she could ditch her mom for, which I know that sounds weird because normally that's like the biggest struggle as a parent of teenagers is they never ever want to spend any time with their parents. But for my kid and a child who has struggled her entire life to make friends, to now have her at a point that she can ditch me because she'd rather be doing this with her friend is kind of cool. And then afterward, I took her out for dinner at the restaurant in town. There's only like one restaurant in town. But at the restaurant in town that my husband and I often go to for date night, just because it's close and because it's the only real and decent restaurant in town. Options are severely limited. And by in town, I mean, no, nothing more than actually the little village nearby. It doesn't actually even meet government classification standards for a town. But it does for a village, so at least it is big enough to be considered a village, which only takes like 500 people, I think. But anyway, I took her there for dinner afterward, and she did think that was pretty awesome. Just because it's the place that my husband and I always go, the kids always think of it as like an adult restaurant, which is really very fun. I mean, it's really not like an adult restaurant, but because that's where mom and dad always go for their date nights, that's how the kids have associated it. So she thought that was pretty awesome that she got to go to mom and dad's restaurant. So now I think that will be our ongoing tradition, at least for the next 2 years, while both Veda and Evie reach that stage where after high school scheduling, I take them to mom and dad's restaurant, because we got home and Veda right away, "Where did you go for dinner?" And Sylvia was so excited to tell her where we went. And Veda was so angry. "I've never been there." And I said, "Well, you know, did you have high school scheduling?" "No." "Well, when you have high school scheduling, I can take you there too." "But that's not like for 2 more years." "Veda, it's only in 1 more year." "Same amount of time." No, it's not, child," who is being a little dramatic. So I think that is the perfect way to celebrate that kind of new phase in life that, yeah, you are getting ready for high school. This is a pretty big deal. We're going to do your high school scheduling, and then mom will take you to the adult restaurant. So I guess it's a new tradition that now has been started with my oldest. We'll see if the restaurant's still around by the time my son gets to be that age. I don't know. We'll see. It might be. I hope so. It's a good place. But yeah, it is just crazy to me how quickly time goes. And then that evening, I was going to post something about it on social media, on Instagram, which you can follow me over there as well. It's Knits for Sanity. I also have a link on my homepage here. So I was looking through old pictures and I was trying to find an old picture of Sylvia, like from very early school days. And something, I don't know what happened, but instead of finding pictures, I came across all of these old little video clips that I had taken of the girls when they were small. I mean, stuff I'd completely forgotten about. The number of videos I took of one or more of the girls, you know, saying, I love you, Daddy. I miss you, Daddy. I can't wait for you to get home. Well, he was away at work. Oh. So next thing you know, I'm a bawling mess. I mean, I'm just sobbing because it's, you know, how did time go that fast? You know, part of me feels like this was my girls just yesterday, right? But it's not. They're not. They're so much older than that now. And anyway, so just so that I didn't have to share in the misery alone, I took one of those videos, and it was one of all three girls saying to my husband, you know, we love you, Daddy. We hope you had a good day. We can't wait to see you. And I sent that to him again. So the next morning when he woke up, he had that video. And later in the day, he said to me, what did I ever do to you? So I knew it worked. But it's just, and it's funny because back in those days, those were long days. Oh, they were long days. I had 3 girls in 3 years. Someone always needed me. Someone was always crying. Often multiple kids were crying. You know, someone always needed a diaper change. Someone always needed to eat something. Someone always didn't like what I made. I mean, that's still the case, but it's a little bit different now because you don't quite feel the same pressure that you have to make sure that they eat because now they're old enough to know that they have to eat. You're always changing someone's outfit. You are always in demand. I mean, someone's always hanging on you. Someone's always calling your name. And now it's not quite like that anymore. I mean, it's still very, very chaotic in our house and it's still loud and crazy and noisy, but it's different now. And just how fast that went. That phrase, the days are long, but the years are short, could not be any more true or accurate. It's just absolutely remarkable and incredible to me. And to look at my kids and to be proud of them, to be proud of who they're becoming, to see them now as their complete and total own selves. You know, they have their own unique interests and skills and faults and abilities. It is amazing. It is marvelous. It is astounding. It's humbling. This parenting gig is so emotional and so beautiful and so stressful. And the hardest thing that you will ever do in your life. And yet, even for all of the pain, for all of the struggles, for all of the sacrifice, I am so thankful that we embarked on that journey. If you're a parent, you get it. If you aren't a parent yet, be aware. Parenting is really, really, really hard. Really, really hard. And if you're a parent of really, really little kids right now, I hear you. You're right. The days are hard right now. They are hard. I remember that. And there is you can hear the days are long, the years are short. And right now with where you're at, that will mean diddly squat. You're like, yeah, I know. But Who is going to clean the poop for me right now? Like, I got, poop all over and another kid is screaming his head off. Yeah, you're right. It is hard. And we do not offer enough help to young parents in our culture. We just don't. So having said that, if you're in a position where you can help a young parent, go help a young parent. They need it. So that was kind of my moment last week. My wow, and where'd the time go? And that was kind of my moment last week. Just wow. So what else is going on? I wanted to try and keep this a little bit shorter of a WIP and chat because this is like my, finish up from last week, except now we're at a full length WIP and chat. So sorry guys, hope you don't mind. But later today, this is another very busy week. It's always a busy week. I should just stop telling you that. It's always a busy week. If it's ever not a busy week, I'll let you know because that would be the oddity. But today, my younger two daughters are going to be in their first quiz bowl. So this whole quiz bowl thing is new for everyone. The school has not been involved in quiz bowl for many, many years is what it sounds like. Quiz bowl wasn't a thing when I was a kid. So I have no idea what to expect. I don't know how this is going to go. I just know I'm picking up my kids after school. Plus one other little boy who needs a ride. We're stopping at home so one kid can change her clothes and I can drop off my oldest because she didn't want to do quiz bowl. And then we drive north to another school and we go to a middle school quiz bowl competition. So I will have to let you know with my next WIP and chat what that's like because I don't know. I mean, I assume you're in groups of approximately 4. One team on one side, another team on the other side. Somehow you're asked questions. Whoever answers them gets them right. But, that's about all I know. So it's a whole new adventure for us and our family. I'll keep you posted. Otherwise, I really think that is probably about it for right now. Once again, thank you so much for putting up with all of my wrestling blabber. We really are probably about done. I always say that, but like my husband says, wrestling's never over. There's always wrestling, and he's not completely wrong. I mean, I've talked about that in the past, but we do have the NCAA championship this weekend. Tomorrow night is the wrestling banquet for the high school team, which includes my daughter. So the two of us will be going to that. But wrestling really is dwindling. I promise. It is. Community question again. Were you ever allowed to miss school for some kind of an event or function or show or activity that your parents or adult guardian thought would actually be more beneficial for you than attending school that day? I'd love to know about it. And finally, like I always say, please practice kindness. You just never know what someone is going through. You don't know what their day has been like or their week. So just be kind. And I hope that you are having a marvelous, marvelous day. And I will see you again real soon.